to work productively with others. Councillors, in remarking upon Con's life, I'd now ask us to take a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. And I'd ask that that's recorded in the minutes. Thank you. Councillors, declaration of pecuniary interests and special disclosures. Councillor Harper.
Yes, thank you, acting chair. I have a disclosure for an item that's actually going to move into confidential, which is item in confidential. It's 13.6. It's 9.6 on the agenda item. I'm just related to the occupants on either side of that actual particular work, so I will actually leave for the vote.
So significant.
Yes.
Pecuniary?
Yes.
Not
sorry. Significant non-pecuniary.
Pecuniary. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harker. Any further declarations?
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes. For item 6.2, I'll declare again for this item as the neighbour of this property is a client of my business, and a decision of council tonight might give them a financial opportunity to benefit. I'll be leaving the room.
And that's significant and pecuniary, I'd imagine.
Correct. 6.2, significant pecuniary.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. All right, if there's no further declarations, we'll move into the confirmation of the minutes from the meeting held. Oh, my apologies. Apologies. Councillors, we have a leave request from Councillor Abbey. That's why I'm in this seat. As you'll see on the screen, that apologies be received from Councillor Abbey and a leave of absence be granted. Councillor Turner moving. Seconder. Councillor Frost seconding. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that's declared carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move to the confirmation of minutes from the meeting held on the 16th of December 2020. You should have a motion on the screen that those minutes be taken as read and confirmed. Can I have a councillor to move? Councillor Turner, seconded Councillor Reid. Councillors, if there's nothing further on this, all those in favour? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Declare carried. Councillors, I am unaware of there being a mayoral minutes, so we will pass that one. Noting that we have had a conflict, my apologies, a declaration made in relation to one of the items in item 6. I'll just go through one by one in this particular section. So 6.1, variations to development standards, report. A councillor to move the motion in that report. Councillor Reid, seconded Councillor Harker. Councillors, is there any debate or discussion on this? Councillors, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillor McManus, was that for? Thank you. Councillors declared carried. 6.2, Councillor Jones is moving to the lobby, I believe. I never thought I'd say that, but here we are. Hopefully the waiting room music is good. All right, councillors, 6.2 relating to dwelling at 631 Wargila Road, Bengo. Councillor McManus moving the motion. A seconder? Not moving the motion, sorry. There's an alternate motion that should be on the screen in a moment. Okay, so we have an alternate motion. Councillor McManus, I haven't had anyone move the alternate, so you could include it.
I'll be moving that conditional approval for development application for a dwelling house and workshop, 631 Wargila Road. That all stays the same. Dot point 2 will be that the development application is consistent with surrounding lot sizes with dwellings, and that the development will assist with the management of agricultural practices, specifically with regards to weeds and livestock, and then 2 becomes 4 in terms of the Department of Planning. Sure.
Councillor McManus, just to help Sheree, do you have a written copy of that?
Yes, please. The reason I'm changing, I'm not going with the original recommendation from the December meeting or the recommendation that appears in the books, but going to this recommend to a new motion. So I think that in this instance, the applicant preserves the development application to build a house that they're trying to do for 20 years. I do know from past practice that we put simply worded motions up to the Department of Planning. They always look for reasons, so we need to include reasons in the motion. The 2 reasons are basically that land surrounding or land nearby, certainly within less than 100 metres, has smaller lot sizes than this, and there are lot sizes on the other side of it, further out of town, that are also similar. So the circumstances are not dissimilar to the applicant in this instance, and also that the leaving it the way it is makes management of weeds and livestock particularly challenging. So by going back to where we were 20 years ago, when the emu farm actually had permission to build a house to manage the emus, they continued with the emu farm, we'd be going back there, but without any choice. So appreciate that.
Can I just suggest that you add 2 to 1? So you leave it as it is. You support it on the basis that
you want to do it that way.
Yeah. Following reasons.
Yeah, for following reasons, something like that. Just that it then makes it very clear that you're supporting, and you're very clear about the reasons why you support it.
Yeah.
Councillor Turner, second.
So those reasons have to be included in the motion. Some reasons have to. Now the report goes to further reasons and further arguments, and certainly the applicant's planner has other reasons, but I think the key reasons for us are those 2, that it's not dissimilar to surrounding other properties, and it would certainly assist with the management of weeds and livestock, which is critical to the rest of that other part of agriculture. So leaving it isolated will actually impact on other landholders. So allowing them in this instance, I don't believe this sets a precedent across the whole Shire. This has been a long-running, unfortunate situation for 20 odd years, and hopefully this brings this to a conclusion with a better outcome than what's there at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor McManus. Okay, councillors, we have a mover, we have a seconder. Is there any further debate as it appears on the Councillor Frost?
I'll just make a point. I've supported the motion because I think up to this council to make decisions that don't necessarily comply with the rules. Otherwise, you just write a set of rules and you would never have to have anybody make a decision on anything because it would all be covered by the rules, and that's obviously clearly not the case here. I am concerned about a precedent. I'm sort of very concerned about the great number of lots out on Gap Range Road that have been sold without building permits, and in 20 years' time, I wouldn't like this to be. I think what's distinctly different for me about this issue is that this land was bought at around the time when this council provided support for it having a building permit. So I think the person that bought it was quite entitled to assume that they were going to be able to build there. There was no publicity or any other way to say, no, you're not going to be able to, because the current rule wasn't in place, nor was many others. So to me, it would be grossly improper and grossly unfair to deny this application for a building permit.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. Any further debate from councillors? Councillors, I'll put the recommendation To close, my apologies, Councillor McManus.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor. It's just it's very important that this is our position, but the applicant's also got to be very much aware that this is Planning New South Wales' final decision, and as much as we've supported in this room, or we were about to support or possibly support, that's no guarantee going forward. It's just another step that's being taken in the process. So it's got to be very clear to the applicant that this still has to get the concurrence of the Department of Planning and Environment. Thanks, Mr. Acting.
Thank you, Councillor McManus. Councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that is declared carried. Can we please bring Councillor Jones back from the waiting room and hopefully also waiting room tones.
They get a road up.
Sorry?
They get a road up that street.
If you want to build the road through, you'd have to move the
Yeah. So it's 3.5 metres are being asked to provide. It's about 110 metres, we think.
Yeah, there is a track there already.
There's a track, but essentially as you want to build a road,
You've got to cross.
you can't go past it.
The power line.
Yeah,
Kind of looking for
Councillors Jasmine and Councillor Jones has just returned, so if we could just return to business. Thank you. So councillors, item 6.3, Shed 12, David Street, Gundaroo. Councillors, there should be a motion on screen in a moment. Councillors, can I have Councillor to move the recommendation?
Is there been any adjustment? Shed.
Councillor Reid, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Frost, I'll open to debate. Any councillors to debate the matter? Nope. Okay. Councillor McManus.
This is the shed. Has there been any further compromise on the height?
So between when council considered the matter at its December meeting and the meeting today, they have reduced the height, the apex height, by 700 millimetres. And I believe there has been some discussions between council and the applicant, but council staff put forward their views in the report. Still too high. Yeah. There is at the end of the report a reference to that if council believes that the shed has merit, that they could approve the shed subject to a further reduction in wall height down to 3.8 metres, the maximum wall height. That would bring down the peak of the roof.
Which would reduce it to what? Because I'm of mind, if they can get the height down,
Depends on
there's not a philosophical position against building a shed in Gundaroo. There's a lot of sheds in Gundaroo, as long as it's compliant with the rest of the village. Would we be entitled to nominate a height in this that clarifies if they got it down to that height, they wouldn't need to come back to this room?
No, so we could.
Would you bring it back to this room? That's the question.
Okay. Well, potentially council could resolve to approve the shed with a proviso that the wall plate height is reduced to a maximum of 3.8 metres, and that would bring down the overall height of the shed.
So would we nominate?
So that's an option for council.
Would we nominate a wall plate height and a peak height, and then delegate to staff to deal with it? It's very frustrating for applicants to have to keep coming back here because of those delays. But if the applicant's prepared to compromise on the peak height and the wall height, I think we could have that wording suitably included in here and then delegate to staff.
Councillor McManus, I agree you can do that if you want to approve it with a reduced wall height subject to usual standard, as well as any standard conditions. We could certainly do that. But just bear in mind, the applicant was given the numerous opportunities to actually revise the plan, including up until tonight, and hasn't confirmed that they're prepared to do that. By approving it with a reduced wall height, they will either accept that. If they don't accept it, they would need to appeal or seek a review of that determination from council or from the Land and Environment Court. So I think it's certainly practical in terms of timing to make a decision along those lines.
You would also indicate to the applicant this is not just the staff's position, this is councillor's position as well. But if they want to get that shed built, they need to reduce the peak height and the wall height. I just need those numbers. Sorry, Drew.
Yeah, so it's 3.8 metres on the wall height.
Which would also the pitch height at the top of the roof.
I think it'd probably bring it down about a metre.
Depending
if that increase
the angle of the pitch. So it's the combination of the two. It's the peak height of the roof.
So retain the slab to current pitch and reduce the height of the walls.
3 metres, it's a 3 metre pitch as well. So that's, if you go 3.8, it'll be 6.889 according to that.
So reduce the wall height of the shed to a maximum of 3.8. Maintain the pitch of the roof as is, and it's not to exceed 3 metres above.
3.8.
3.8 above the wall height.
Yep.
And the wall height of 3.8. So based on their dimensions on the drawing here, at a 22-degree pitch, the width of the building, it should be 3.089 is the height of the pitch above the height of the wall. So if you have a 3.8 metre wall, you'll then have a 6.889 pitch top of the building.
6.9.
6.9.
Yeah. 3.8 and a pitch of 3.9. So we would be resolving to approve, subject to the applicant reducing the wall height to 3.8 and the pitch height to maintaining a pitch height below 6.9.
Maximum pitch
height. And the standard conditions of consent.
And maximum pitch height.
And that's the pitch height of 6.9. Standard conditions of consent to be applied. There was nothing else abnormal about that was there?
No, but in the second part with the standard conditions, that we just have a condition that strictly prohibits the use of the shed for business/industrial purposes, because that has been one of the concerns during the assessment of the application.
So in other words, it can be used for their personal purposes. It's not for the business purposes.
Through you, Chair Farid, could we actually pull that out of the conditions and state it in the resolution?
In the second part.
I think it's already in there as well.
No, the new dot point is what.
Yeah. So the first dot point is reduce the height of the shed walls and the pitch, and the second component is standard conditions of and that we prohibit
the third one. Yeah. The third one that we strictly prohibit the use of it for commercial purposes.
That's what we need. I'm willing to.
So one second.
As a separate motion.
So Councillor Reid, what I was going to do is consult with yourself and Councillor Frost and ask whether or not you would be happy to withdraw the original recommendation. Yeah. Thank you. So that original recommendation that was moved and seconded is withdrawn. Councillor McManus, I'm taking that you're moving the recommendation that's on screen, the non-withdrawn recommendation.
Be approved subject to national law.
That's occurring. Councillors, can I have a second? Councillor Reid seconded. Thank you.
So do you want the third one to say?
The third one
should be strictly prohibited.
Third one, this is.
The condition be included.
No condition be included, yeah.
It strictly prohibits. So take the first bit out.
Yeah.
a condition.
If you have to work.
Okay, if there's no concerns, councillor McManus, do you want to speak any further to this?
Just a little. Again, I don't think we're opposed to a shed being built in Gundaroo as long as it conforms generally to the old part of Gundaroo. I think it's not out of scale with the rest of the village. It's not bigger than any other parts of the village. The other thing is that we are keen that it's not to be used for commercial purposes. It's just to be used for hobbies or personal use. And this stops it having to go out, debated with the applicant again, and then having to come back here. If the applicant is prepared to concede some ground, then the applicant can build his or her shed.
Thank you, councillor McManus. Councillors, is there any further? Councillor Burgess.
I just agree with councillor McManus. The shed's too high. Bring it down like this, and no business is to be in there.
Thank you, councillor Burgess. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that staff have spent considerable time toing and froing with absolutely no concession on this final one to actually meet our standards. So I think this motion is a bit of a gift in the sense that they don't have to reapply and spend more money when council itself is clocking over our money and our time with an applicant that wasn't willing to actually come to the table. So I think that was a gift, councillor McManus. Thank you for arranging the motion.
Thank you, councillor Jones. Councillors, if there's no further debate, I will look to councillor McManus for closing. Councillor McManus is all good. I'll now put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that is declared carried. Thank you.
If we can go back to the 6.3 development, it says it's dated street. Can we insert an R?
And to make it a street. Thank you, councillor Turner. Pick up. Councillors, we'll make that correction now, and then we will go to item 6.4 for subdivision 15 Gundaroo Terrace, Gundaroo. So, councillors, there'll be a recommendation on the screen. Councillor Harker, are you moving?
No, I have a question. That's all right. Would you want to move it first?
Yes, councillor Harker, you're welcome to move it. Or if you don't feel comfortable.
No, I'm happy to move it.
Okay. And second, councillor Reid. Councillor Harker.
Thank you. Acting Mayor. I just want to ask you about a question that the proponents were asking in the actual, in her presentation. There was a lot of small items in there that seemed like they possibly would normally be addressed prior to this stage. And I suppose that my concern was in passing this without all of those ironed out. We're effectively passing it and she's asking questions on something we're going to pass. Yeah, so I just was looking for a response to that.
So I think probably particularly in relation to the electrical, the overhead lines, is that what you, yeah.
And the footpath?
Yeah, so in terms of the overhead lines, usually that is up to the applicant to resolve. We deal with the council requirements and they would need to resolve that with the electricity authority prior to lodging their construction certificate. So that is really something they need to address. They do have the option of, say, putting a right-of-way through the western lot to access the eastern lot without having to upgrade David Street if they felt that the requirements, if there were requirements from Essential Energy, were too onerous to build, to essentially provide the bitumen seal and widen that pavement. So in terms of the footpath access, I think that's more about people who are walking through there. So there may be some issues there around the submissions and people feeling that they possibly can't walk down that part of David Street because of the way those bollards have been constructed. It does make it appear, when you look at the photos from the site inspection, that it's part of their land. Like if you didn't know, it does look like it is part of their property and that they are using that as part of their property. I'd say that's an issue between residents who are using that part of the road and the landowner, that sort of thing.
Also,
I think
the council wanted to open David Street up to pedestrian paths. It's that's a matter for council to deal with, not the applicant. if we wanted pedestrians to walk from Gundaroo Terrace back through into town, then we can easily put a footpath through there if that's what we felt was important. That wouldn't be a requirement that you put on this particular developer. Sorry?
Will only lock it.
Yeah. So basically, if we wanted to facilitate pedestrian movements to where the end of the current access is and through back into the village, then we can easily make a footpath because there's a public road reserve all the way through. It's just that it's been unformed and there's quite an extensive vegetation in that area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harker. Councillor Fox.
Let's ask a question on that. There was a statement here that that road reserve has actually been leased, or part of that road reserve has been leased by somebody else. So is that right? By a third party?
Again, if it's an unformed road, one of the things that we look at is
so if it's been leased, can we still push through there? Or
well, yes, we have the ability under the lease arrangements to call them in if we require it for public purpose or adjusting the lease through. So, for instance,
so that's not a problem.
I don't think it's a problem. It's a pretty standard lease. The only thing like for lots of unmade roads around council roads around the place, where we often ask the landowner do they want to lease that land and extend, if you like, the use of their property into that area. It reduces our maintenance liability in the main. But so if it's leased for a particular purpose. But the standard lease agreement allows us to call it in if we require it for a public purpose.
Is it? That's not leased to us.
No, it's a public road. We would be leasing it to a third party.
Yeah. So, Councillor McManus, we don't have the call. Councillor Burgess was next, if you're happy to do it. Thank you.
I just think, why don't the council open that road up? Because the applicant's going to do so much of the other end of the road. Can't we, the council, open this end of the road up and make it a road through there and make it, or get it all fenced? These people at the end, as far as I know, has got a lease off the Crown land, as far as I know. Could we do that?
Well, that becomes a...
And then we come to the road, and then people get stuck down here with the water all comes over there, they can get out that way.
Well, if council wants to add the construction of that road, if you open it up, form that road to the appropriate standard, that just becomes a budget consideration. So that can be considered as part of the development of the capital works program for the next financial year, if that's what you desire.
Thank you, Councillor Burgess. Councillor McManus, you now have the call.
They're not paying lease money to us.
No, it's
They're leasing
a Crown road.
Crown road. So that's not.
There'll be a lease with the Crown.
That's lease with the Crown. That's not lease with council, is it?
Well, it's a lease with the Crown. If it's leased by the adjoining landowner with the Crown, it was a Crown lease. The Crown certainly have a plan of offloading all their roads. In fact, they can actually gazette them without reference to council and make them all council roads.
And then we can still lease it.
Well, we can then lease it.
But we don't lease any roads out to landholders, do we?
Yes, we do, where it's a council road. We have standard leases. It's provided for within our fees and charges. And really what it's to do is to reduce a maintenance liability from us in terms of maintaining those road reserves as vacant land and allows the adjoining landowner to use them. I think there's a couple in Sutton. Well, they're all over the place. In fact, all over the local government area where we've got standard road leases.
We get income from.
Yeah, we do. We get a little bit of income from. But the big saving for us is the fact that we don't maintain it.
No.
Thank you, Councillor McManus. Any further debate on this recommendation? Councillors, Councillor Harker, you have the right to close. Anything to that? No. Councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, I'm declaring that carried. Thank you. Correctly marked. Harris. Councillors, item 7.1, fixing country roads, bridges program.
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to ask a question. Is it appropriate to have a follow-up motion after that to actually send David Street for consideration in the next financial budget, works budget?
Well, Councillor Tony, you could do that if you wanted to, or
Yes.
we've
I
already
just wanted to keep it clean.
We've already made a note of it. So for me, are you moving that, Councillor Jones?
Sorry, Chair. Given the interest and the amount of submissions, I'd like to put a motion directly after that one that David Street be considered at the next works budget.
Okay, so that's moved Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Burgess. Councillors, any debate on this?
I'd like to ask a question. If this is Crown Land, what's it got to do with the council? Why are we starting to look at building a street or opening up the street if it's not even a reserve that we are administering? What support has it got from the community? We haven't been debated that, so why won't we be putting it into the financial purpose?
Only for consideration, not.
Councillor Jones, the gentleman is responding.
But basically, the Crown, as a road, are a roads authority, just like council's a road authority and the RMS is a roads authority, depending on the type of road. The Crown made it very clear, despite the fact that the legislation says they're a roads authority, they will not build roads. They will put the responsibility on to the benefiting landowners, or try to do in 99.9% of the time is say, council, you've got to take it on as a road. So if we wanted to build that road, if we felt it was important, we would approach the Crown, and the Crown is most likely to come back and say, yeah, you want to build it? We transfer it to you. It doesn't cost us anything. They just get it off their books, basically. So if council considered it as part of the project, and let's say it was successful, then that will be the first step in the process, is to approach the Crown to say, this is what we would like to do, and they would more than likely go, fantastic, take it off our hands, it's all yours. And they just gazette it that way.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Reid. Any further debate?
I'd just like to say that people have done the road, a lot of them want that road opened up.
Thank you. Councillors, if there's no further debate, I'll ask if Councillor Jones wants to close debate or has anything to add.
All good.
All good. Thank you, Councillor. I'll put the motion as it is on the screen. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that's declared carried. We will now move to item 7.1, Fixing Country Bridges Program Grant. In a moment, there'll be a recommendation on the screen. Thank you. Can I have Councillor to move that recommendation? Councillor Burgess, a seconder. Councillor Reid, thank you. Any debate on this, councillors?
Seminal moment. Like the tarring of the road that we just passed.
Thank you, councillor. Great outcome indeed, if we resolve on it. Councillors, I'll put the motion out of anticipation and suspense. All those in favour? Against? I'm going to take Councillor Jones's blank screen as her hand is waving violently in the air for 4. I declare that carried.
Yeah, you've got to get away with one report. There's not 10, you're not up to the job.
Thank you, councillors. We'll run through one, and we'll just go one by one as in section 8. If any councillors have any questions or discussion on a particular item, please just let me know. But we will bundle them and put them through as one. 8.1. Frost. Councillor Harker. 8.2. 3. 8.4. 8.5. 8.6. 8.7. 8.7. I'm going to write everyone. Thank you. 8.8.
There's something there from the usual.
Thank you. 8.9. 8.9. Civic precinct location options. 8.10. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Perfect. All right, councillors. Can I have a councillor to move the recommendations on 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, and 8.9? Move Councillor Turner, seconded Councillor Reid. Councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that's declared carried. Thank you. We'll now go to 8.1, Annual Financial Statements 2019-20. Councillor Frost. Are you moving, Councillor Frost?
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
Second, Councillor Harker. Thank you.
I'm quite happy to move it. I do so because not because it shows me any clarity, but because it doesn't really. We are subject to all sorts of rules and regulations about how the accounting rules and regulations. But somewhere along the line, we seem to have so many rules and regulations that we've forgotten the basic idea of it, which is to tell you how we're going financially. And this does not actually tell us that. It tells us about revaluations of land under roads and all sorts of stuff like that. And the question here it says we have something like 15 million or whatever in surplus. Most of that seems to have been revaluation and not, and really doesn't tell us anything about our performance, and it doesn't tell us. And you've actually got to dig much through it. But I think it's no doubt competent and accurate, but it's insufficient in terms of providing us with a good view of where we're going and our financial situation. I'll move it, but I'm unhappy with it.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. Councillor Harker.
Thank you, backing that. I probably have the opposite view. You can see from the financial summary that we are in a significantly better situation. I just wanted to, over a really challenging year of COVID, I think the Yass Valley Council deserves some acknowledgement of, in terms of how well they've coped in terms of financial management. We didn't have to make any really serious financial decisions over this period and continue to grow and increase our assets and income. I did make a comment earlier in the week just on if we're going to have a summary here of annual statements under the other financial information and the ratios, could we have the ratio benchmarks beside it for the community, please, in line to being transparent? Otherwise, the figures are sort of meaningless if you don't know what you're benchmarking against. So I think just an area that would be helpful. And maybe a report back on the unrestricted ratio of 1.33, which is below where we want to be. Just something that we can keep a report on to see how we can get it back into its appropriate category. But I think when we first joined council, there was and we talked about this previously, there was a plan that was put up. It was a 5-year financial performance plan, and it was really great in helping us councillors make decisions about when we should and shouldn't spend money. And I suppose before closing out this term, I would really like to see the 5-year financial performance plan, and that might answer some of your questions. A really high level, this is what it's looked like from 2016 to 2021. And, that is something we can potentially share with the community to show how it's, with explanation, obviously, in terms of situation of things. That's something that I hope will be prepared for the next incoming council as well, that they have that information coming in. So when they think, I'm going to co-contribute $250,000, what will that do to the 5-year financial performance or even the 1-year financial performance? They have some financial accountability in their decisions.
Councillor Harker, just through the General Manager, to defer to the Director of Community and Corporate, just confirm that that's been noted.
That has been noted. And just to, round out that conversation about the ratios, I think it's fair to just acknowledge ahead of the start of this meeting, we did have a presentation from our auditor from Deloitte, who did make the comment in signing off with nothing of concern in our audit of our financial statements this year, that we met all the ratios set by the Office of Local Government.
Thank you, Director Eadie. Councillors, is there any further debate? Councillor McNice?
The question to refer to the report. It could have been done in any one of 1, 2, 3, or and that's a broker report a couple of months on non-rate or grant income. Non-rate or grant income. I'd like to know exactly how much income we get from the lease of road reserves. Now, Caravan Park, we usually get a report every couple of years. General Manager, on things like income from Caravan Park, where we are with that. We obviously lease land for small businesses in town. But I'd just like to, now you've highlighted the road reserve one, I didn't even realise we did that. And tip fees is probably the other one. Not so much the rates, rubbish rate component, but the actual tip fees. How much we get from tip fees and how much of that's reinvested back in the tip, that sort of thing.
It'd be useful over time as well. Sorry, through the chair, that we also get to use some trend information on that as well.
It could, yeah. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how you present it, but I just think it's opportune for us to realise that yes, we're getting 1.4 grand here, and we've got big water grants, but it appears that there's about $400,000 or $500,000 worth of other types of income. How it's accounted for, what buckets ends up in, and whether it's going up or whether it's all going down. Can I ask for that report? As I say, it could have been in 6 months, 2 or 3. It doesn't matter where I ask. But going forward, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, any further debate? Councillors, I'll now put item 8.1. I'll defer to Councillor Frost if anything further to add in closing. No? Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, all those in favour? Councillor Jones, is that in favour?
That's it, in favour.
Thank you. Against?
Blended into the background.
Declared carried. It is up. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on.
Just a cricket, I think.
Great. 8.7, Local Traffic Committee.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, as I reported the other evening, that other councils that are not really interested in having a shared committee. So that would leave us simply one to note the report and recognise that we'll continue with our traffic committee as is. I think there was some discussion the other night about whether we add that to the motion, but I'll leave that in your hands if that's what you want to do.
Right. So I've just heard that Councillor McManus has an alternate motion.
Yeah, just the report from the General Manager on the Local Traffic Committee be received and that no further action taken for a joint committee.
Okay, so I've
taken a position.
So I've got Councillor McManus moving that alternate motion, which will be on screen in a moment. Councillor Turner is seconding. Any further debate or discussion? I'm noting the update by our General Manager.
Yes, please.
Councillor Jones, I can see your little hand up on the screen, which reminds me of work. Councillor Jones.
I'm sorry to say it didn't work as we were putting to bed the location options for Civic Precinct. I was madly waving, but it didn't work. So I'm using my electronic hand now. I just wanted to speak in favour of Councillor McManus's motion as the current chair of that committee for the last 5 years. I can safely say that I think we get a lot of benefit from having both council's technical staff in the room giving us advice, along with a councillor to give that community value into the decision, along with local police. And I do believe this is the type of committee that should be held locally. We have a huge local government area, and I think there are people that will struggle to use the modern technology of Zoom to come and give representation. We've had farmers come in and talk to us about cycling events that I believe would not have participated if it had been required over Zoom. So I think it's a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Just wanted to indicate that we can't see you on the screen. I just wanted to check if that was intentional or if it's a technical issue.
That is a technical issue. I will try and fix it my end. Okay.
As I know what the hand looks like now on the screen, which is a good sign, but you may have to speak up from time to time, and I respect that as the chair.
There we go. She leans forward.
Oh, excellent. Sort of see half of you. Oh, no. Okay, I'll leave that one be while it's getting resolved. Councillor Turner was the seconder, I believe, of this recommendation. Is there any further debate, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors declared carried. Thank you. We'll now move to 8.8, policy review. Councillor Frost, I have you asking a question. Or moving?
No, I'm not moving. I simply wanted the option to vote against it. That's all.
Okay, understood. Councillors, you have a recommendation in front of you. Can I have a mover? Councillor Harker, seconder. Councillor Reid, thank you. Councillors, first off, I'll go to Councillor Harker. Did you want to open debate? No? Okay, we'll open debate. Councillor Frost, do you wish to speak against?
I think these are two useful pieces of information that enhance our website, if nothing else, and allow people to actually find out what the information is. What's interesting about them is that they should be reviewed, and the report didn't actually pick up on part that apparently now is now contrary to one of the issues in here, which is actually now contrary to the legislation. But I'm not sure if that's quite true. And to me, that emphasises the need for us to review our policies, review things that are important to us, and make sure that they are consistent with legislation, not just change them without thinking about it. But to my mind, if I'm looking for information on these two topics, I go to the policies of the council. It's where I see that happening. I don't go to the legislation, and I would much rather see them here. It costs nothing to have them sitting in the website under all our policies any more than anything else. I think they should stay.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. Councillor Jones, is that a stuck hand, or do you wish to speak?
It was actually a stuck hand, but I'll just support what Councillor Frost was saying and try and lower my hand. There we go. Thank you.
Mrs. Waller truly is like that. Thank you, councillors. Is there any further debate? Councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? So Councillors Turner against? No, apologies. Councillor Frost, Councillor Jones against. Thank you. I'll declare that carried. All right. Thank you, councillors. 8.10. So 9. Okay.
Yeah, I think we all have 9.
I thought you had called out for 10, but we can, if that's the case, I'm sure we can change that.
I want some clarification on that.
Okay, if it's just a clarification.
No, that's more than clarification, because I know Councillor Jones was keen, to pass comment as well, but we've said that the site of 209 Coomer Street, I believe it should be the site of 209 Coomer Street and council surrounding lands.
It's all now one block of land called 209.
The whole, including all of the Bell Street and the the laneway through to.
The land has been consolidated into a single lot, and that's the identifier that we have in our GIS system.
There's no land that's not included.
All council land that joins this particular site, we understand, it's all 209, and it's all now one consolidated allotment.
Okay, I just want to address that we have 8.9 put down as resolved. I'm going to seek consensus from councillors that we reverse the resolution. I'll take silence as consensus. Okay, we will reverse, but councillors Turner and Reid, do you wish to still move in second?
I'm not sure what we were.
So 8.9 was declared as resolved. Yep. The issue was that Councillor McManus wanted to speak to 8.9 and not 8.10. So 8.9 was marked as resolved through our process. So I'm indicating to councillors through consensus that we reverse that resolution So now I'm seeking yourself and Councillor Turner would you like to maintain your moving and seconding? Councillor Turner, you've got the...
I'm happy to keep moving it. I have little doubt the outcome will be as it was, but I encourage debate and discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Reid? Thank you. So we've just heard from Councillor McManus. Is there any further debate on this one? Councillor Jones, thank you.
Thank you. I've now got my camera facing the right direction and not the wall. So apologies for my bumper car ride on the Zoom. It's been a while. I just wanted to, really stress that I wanted to see this one brought out and debated. This is the first time anyone has ever seen council actually state in writing why we believe 209 is the right location and why other locations aren't correct. Not to say that just because something's in a floodplain that it can't be done. For example, the library in my old hometown of Maitland has a car park below and has an incredible view of the Hunter River over one shoulder of the building and a fountain at the front. And it's an iconic building, and it's a memory that I will always have from my childhood. Now, when we're looking at the cost of raising one building, I think it could be debatable over the span of a 50-year build versus the gain that you would get by making it a much more attractive location for public servants, because currently we pay, I believe, 30 to 50K less than what our federal counterpart public servants will be getting across the border. That is a significant drain that will always be there and we will always need to have to compete with. But I'm conscious that this is not just one building. This is a suite of buildings that are required. It's office, it's a library, it could be accommodation, retail, and the numbers from where I'm looking at this point in time in 2020, 2021 have to be stacked up against all the other infrastructure that our community needs, such as what if we're going alone in terms of the rest of the water bill to get decent water for our town. So I'm conscious that we might have to be a bit more frugal. As much as I would love to put our hardworking staff with office water views, I don't think we can manage it.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillors, is there any further debate? Councillors, I'll turn to Councillor Turner to close. Councillor McManus, was that?
No, I'm very happy with. I'm very happy that we are re-endorsing the motion that was put 20 years ago. This was certainly well and truly locked in last time, which is why we bought the land all around us. The purchase of all the land and the swap with Aldi wasn't done on the whim of staff. It was actually done under the direction of a long lost council. The Riverbank Park would be wonderful. Councillor Jones is correct, but we can only employ short people because by the time we live to the level of the by the time we lift the level of the floor for staff to work on above the flooded heights and then remain below the height of the courthouse, anyone under 5'6" would be welcome, but anyone above 5'6", you'd have to find employment over in Canberra, where Councillor Jones suggested some other employees might end up. So I am very happy that we've re-endorsed this site. It was also why we also did look back then and we had the option on those other blocks of land. But this is the heart of the town. It's the place for council to be and to grow, and I hope this is the first step in a new project that comes to fruition.
Thank you, Councillor McManus. Councillor Turner to close.
Thank you.
Can I just say that this will go down in history as the being John Malkovich emotion?
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Turner.
Just in closing debate, I'd like to congratulate all of the staff for a very, very comprehensive rationale behind choosing this site as opposed to the Riverbank Park. My heart is in the Riverbank Park. 30 years ago, I was instrumental in the council that completed that bicentenary project. I love the Riverbank Park with an absolute passion. But this rationale is such, we own this land, it's obligated to develop this land, and I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Turner, and I'll, through the chair, echo those comments. Very comprehensive report and places us in a good position. Councillors, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that's declared carried. 8.10, Civic Precinct Project Design Phase Funding. Councillor Frost, are you moving as part of that?
Well, it depends on the answer to the question. Really.
All right, let's roll with us. Councillor Frost.
If I could just ask, the recommendation says that $672 be allocated from within the budget, and I'm just wondering, where is it being allocated from? I wasn't aware that we had money sitting around unallocated looking for a home. If I had, I think I could have found a few projects. I don't understand how that's doing it. Eventually, the funds will come from a $20 million loan. I can glean from that. But what's the mechanics of getting money out of this budget?
It's actually reflected in the quarterly budget review. So if you go back to that report, the quarterly budget review, with the ups and downs, there was a plan simply with money coming in and coming out with the way the years panned out with what we've done and what we haven't done. That 672, if we didn't spend it on this, we put it in the reserve to carry over to the next year.
So it's effectively a new.
So we're asking you, on the original budget that you approved, to allow us to spend this additional money on these particular things, but otherwise, if you don't, it'll just go into the reserve for other things in the future.
So it's probably the within that's thrown me. Yeah, because that suggested was already in the budget.
Yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. Are you prepared?
I am, but I've.
Seconder? Seconder?
Yeah, well, I'm going to take within out and actually put, just the allocated.
Seconding, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're making that change. Brilliant. Councillors, the recommendation on the screen. We've had a mover through Councillor Frost and a seconder through Councillor Reid. Is there any further debate, councillors? Councillor Jones using the hand. Thank you.
Yes, I'm using the power of the hand. I'm just going to lower it now before I forget. Okay, I have a question, and it's a financial one, and also a bit of a clearing some elephants out of the room question. I note that at the end of the financial year, we have a projected debt of 15.4 million. Now, this project will require us to draw down a $20 million loan. My question is, the pressing project of the water treatment plant, there's a cloud over it because we don't have consensus between DPEI and state government and us that project will be funded to the 38 point whatever, well, let's call it $39 million. We've only got $10 million in the kitty. So if we were to include the $28 million shortfall for that project, assuming we could get left high and dry by the state and federal government once again, if we include that as a loan as well, a straight out loan, can we carry all these projects at once? Can we walk and chew gum, or will we be putting extra burden on our ratepayers by trying to do these two projects alone in consensus, in lockstep?
Councillor Jones, the funding for the projects, the water treatment plant and the civic precinct, come from different sources. So, for instance, the general fund is plus any grants that we receive for the civic precinct project will come out of rate revenue and reserves, and the water fund is responsible for financing the upgrade of the water treatment plant. We actually haven't got any money for the water treatment plant at this stage. We've got a promise of money. I think in the election it was whatever it costs, but that has been refined to somewhere between 10 and 13. But I guess that's the issue for us at the moment with the water treatment plant, is just having that peer review to work out which option is the best one, and then we've got to come back and say, this is the best option and this is how we can actually fund it. So that project has got a little bit of way to go depending on which option is selected as the preferred option for the upgrade of that facility.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor McManus.
I think it's really important that no general rates money, no general fund money can actually be spent on the water. That's right. So even if we didn't go ahead with this, we couldn't use our excess money on the water or on the rubbish tip or on the sewer. The general fund money has to remain absolutely isolated from those other three funds.
Okay. Councillors, is there any further debate on this?
I think you can let them know, because they're all going to.
Councillors, I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Declared carried. Thank you. Sorry, was that against? So Councillor McManus was against. Sorry, it's peripheral. Okay, councillors, we've got several reports under the General Manager's reports. I understand that they're all confidential. I just want to liaise with Councillor Harker to confirm that, and the General Manager regarding, with that declaration, whether or not Councillor Harker is okay to be in the room for moving it into confidential. I guess it's also if you feel comfortable.
I'm fine with moving it into confidential, okay, but I'll leave for the actual first.
Just wanted that stated on record. Thank you. Considering previously. Councillors, items 9.1 through to items 9.7, moving those into confidential. Councillor to move, Councillor Turner, Councillor Frost seconding. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that is declared carried. Thank you. There are nil notices of motion. There are nil questions with notice. Item 12, Section 12, minutes and recommendations of council committees. So I'm going to go through these just one by one, and if there's anything to be debated or discussed on a particular one, please chime. 12.1, 12.2, Councillor Frost, 12.3, 12.4, 12.5, Councillor Frost. Can I have a mover to move recommendations against items 12.1, 12.3, 12.4? Councillor Reid moving, seconder. Councillor Harker seconding. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillors, that's declared carried. Item 12.2, Councillor Frost, you have the floor. Are you moving? Yep, seconder. Councillor Reid, thank you.
Yeah, I just simply wanted to update council. There's been a meeting since this meeting. It was held on site, so we actually got to inspect it. But the present Bango wind farm has 7 turbines complete, so complete and up, and they're a long way up to 200 metres roughly high. They have 26 of the 46 complete components are on site, so that's nearly all done. 86% of the road works that need to be completed have been completed, and basically they're starting to wind down some of the employment, in particular that involved in civil works is being wound down, and I think it's about 3 months they're looking to have the whole project complete, and whereupon it will revert to actually running the wind farm workforce rather than construction workforce. Motion of council is ready to upgrade on this report.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Councillor Frost. Any further debate? Councillor Turner.
Yes. I have a concern with the community consultation not receiving full facts of the matter. I'm aware of 2 fatalities and one where there was a severing of a limb. These are being reported through work safety people. They're not being reported to the general public. There was apparently someone electrocuted on site. There was someone crushed on site near the sewage farm where the holding of that plant there. And there was a hand severed in an auger. I'm concerned that this is going on and the community is not being told what is happening on site. I'm aware that there are industrial accidents on every industrial site. I am acutely concerned that these are being covered up and not reported to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Certainly through the chair, I note those concerns. Councillor Frost, if you do speak, you'll close debate. Can I just go around the room and see if there's further?
I was just going to say that perhaps Councillor Frost, who's on the consultative committee, can raise that as an agenda item for consideration.
Councillor Frost.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to take that comment. And to be honest, I was surprised when I read the LENC report, because that's the first that I'd heard a rumour after the other meeting that somebody had been killed. Certainly not two, and not in the sort of detail that is here. And yeah, I will raise it. In fact, I would think that I will raise it outside of before the next committee, before the next CCC meeting, because it would have been a point of discussion, the CCC meeting, but clearly none of the other members of the CCC were aware of it either.
Councillor Frost, that concludes debate for this motion. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I take those in favour. Councillor Jones?
You see me, that's a yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Declare carried. Councillors, 12.5, meeting notes from Yass Soldiers Memorial Hall Committee. Councillor Frost, are you moving?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. I will move, but I will add a fourth point.
Okay.
And the fourth point being that Council establish a separate budget item for Memorial Hall maintenance. And that was one of the items that was discussed by the meeting of the Memorial Hall Committee meeting that was not a meeting because we were one member short. And the point being that it is very difficult under the present system where maintenance costs are spread across a lot of buildings and a lot of, it may work for some, but it makes it very difficult for staff to quickly, know how much they've got to spend, but also to inform the Memorial Hall Committee or this council as to what's going on in terms of maintenance on that building. I would make, so I'd like that to be included. The other points that I would make, the other point that I would make about these notes is that Memorial Hall at the moment is in a pretty poor state, or would seem so. We have a lot of difficulties in the roof. We have water that's seeping in. We have water underneath the building, and a lot of the substructure under the floors is dubious. Staff have organised, and in conjunction with the committee, have organised that the engineer's report be done on this. But I would expect, and just my reading of the situation is, we're going to see a lot of work needing to be done on this particular hall. And probably fairly rapidly, I would think, because we're talking about bearers and joists and things that are rotted, and kitchens are being shut off at the moment. There's quite a bit of the hall is not being able to be used at the moment. Leaving aside the causes of all that, this is the Memorial Hall. It is a memorial, and it's an iconic building in Yass. It's not one that we can think about demolishing or even not using. It is a remarkable building, and it needs to be preserved. It's coming up to its 100th year. It's coming up to its centenary, I think, in 2023 of it being opened, and I would hope that we can get it into a fit state by the time we have reached that centenary time. So, unfortunately, you're going to hear a lot more about Memorial Hall, I would think, in the next over the next 6 months for this council and the next council as well.
Certainly appreciate that update. Thank you, Councillor Frost. Councillor Turner had seconded the recommendation on, as you see on the screen. Any further debate, councillors? All right, councillors, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? And carried. Thank you, councillors. Noting that now takes us into confidential matters, we will end the live stream, and thank you for those who are watching. Councillor
Excuse me, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question of the General Manager on all the items in confidential that I don't think impacts. I wanted to ask whether in any of these we've sought legal advice on some of the reasons for why we have rejected tenders.
The short answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
We will end the live stream there. Thank you for those who've been watching. And on that note, as it ended, I'm talking to myself. Thank you. Councillors, to move us, recommendation to move us into closed council. Moved. No, that's YouTube. That's just a random. Right, it's just, yeah, it's not, well, it's, anyway, it's a computer, I think.